putting in the name right now. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if some film studios are like, we're going to hold our film back for a year because they've done that in the past. They've gone, it's such a clear indication that this person's going to win. Why risk it?
My bathroom light is made for horror movies.
Right, okay.
Because it flickers on at least 15 times. There's like flicker, and then it's off for a good like 3 seconds. You're already in the room. Right. You've seen your reflection. Yes. And then you get another flick and just like ready for like an Insidious level red-faced man to like come behind you.
Because you also have one of those horror movie bathroom mirror cabinets.
Mirror cabinets.
That if you open it and then shut it and someone's in the reflection, right?
Yeah.
Classic move.
It's just ready for any sort of like cheap, anything, just like cheap horror movie.
Cheap film.
Cheap film.
Yeah. Waiting for a cheap horror film.
Cheap horror, which
hopefully
always
that doesn't happen in this flat. But it is a bit creepy.
Maybe I should list it. Really bad light, ready for horror.
You also have it's such a like horribly white strobe light.
Oh god, I hate it.
Cold LED.
Yes, it's like an old-fashioned, slightly like diffused plastic frame.
Yeah, James lives in an old building.
Yeah,
about 100. I'd say this about 100 years old.
Yeah, sounds about right. Based on zero knowledge of architecture, I'll go sure. I'll go hard yes
Just
on that.
Knock on the wall and go.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. Yeah, about 100.
Yeah, that low bearing wall. Yeah, I think it's about 100 years old. Yeah,
old and dusty. Yeah. Speaking of my area, somebody who I've seen like 2 or 3 times now is Dominic Cooper.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I see Dominic Cooper is because he's wearing these really big black sunglasses, probably to hide the fact that he's Dominic Cooper. But what happens is I see this man with really big black sunglasses on. I go, in my head, those are some really big black sunglasses. Those are interesting. I wonder like what's going on. And then I get closer, I go, oh, that's because it's Dominic Cooper under there wearing really big black glasses. But I like Dominic Cooper.
Yeah, I when I came out of one of the screenings for the London Film Festival, which we'll talk about, it was a beautiful sunny day, and I just left Leicester Square. And Terry Gilliam walked right past me. Yeah. And he walked past me Sunday morning. He had nothing else with him. He just had he was just wearing clothes with no jacket, which I knew immediately meant that you clearly live about 2 minutes from here.
Yes, that's true.
Central, like Soho.
Wasn't warm enough to be doing that.
He was just he was clearly going to get some milk or something. Yeah. And I was like, that's Terry Gilliam.
God, living in central Soho, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, but he's probably like lived there for, in those old townhouses for years.
Oh, true.
I was just like, wow, this is just such a different era. He's made his money in a different era as part of a different era thing. But also I was like, love London. You just, something that does, like you just talking about Dominic Cooper, you just, there you go.
See someone famous.
I go to New York, I see Jesse Eisenberg, I go to London.
Imagine what LA's like.
Well, I mean, there you go, getting a smoothie somewhere.
Have you been?
No, I haven't.
No, me neither.
No, I haven't. We'll go see Trevor if we
if
we ever go.
100%.
I also saw when I came out.
And I want to see your friend who's probably working their way through every film now. Please go back and listen if you haven't. You don't know this episode. It was Trevor from LA met a person who had never seen any film due to certain circumstances of their upbringing. Yeah. And then he decided to do an auction on social media of what his first film should be, and we unpacked it on the show. What episode was it?
Oh goodness, I don't know. Like it's like 23 or something.
Something like that. It's fantastic.
Also, when I came out of another screening, I went to work, and on my way to work, I walked past, you won't know who this is, but I walked past Joseph Quinn, who was like the breakout star of the most recent series of Stranger Things.
Okay.
Like everyone loved him, and like he was such a great presence in that whole show. And I was like,
cool.
And he had the
English
look
guy.
He's English. And he had that look of someone who is newly famous because he was just like walking around like it was anything normal. Like Terry Gilliam has been through it all so much, right, that he can walk out normally. And this guy has only been famous for about 6 months, so like. Yeah, until like 6 months ago, he could just go and get a pint of milk. But I was looking at him like, but I know who you are now.
You won't be able to walk around for long. I'll suffocate you.
Whoa. What?
Like suffocate
I
fame.
see. I'm so sorry. You don't use that word often.
So you followed him home for a while.
I followed him home. I was like, I will find you. Yeah. Come on the show.
I had Olivia Wilde walk outside my flat.
You did.
I remember I told you about that. It was like June.
And then later that day, she was spotted in the same outfit that you saw her at
Yes.
Hampstead Heath with Harry
It
Styles.
definitely was. Literally outside my block of flats, past me is Olivia Wilde, and I just I was immediately able to spot her because of just the news cycle at the time of Don't Worry Darling, and I was like, that is definitely Olivia Wilde.
What you understand is that Pulp Kitchen is clearly sitting in the middle of some sort of interconnected movie universe.
Yes.
It's destined to sit here, and eventually, they will find themselves gravitating towards us.
Well, because my life is the Truman Show, they don't have enough budget for actual real actors and the people who are just pedestrians, so they need to get Dominic Cooper and Olivia Wilde to do overtime.
They don't have enough budget, so they get the most famous actors.
If you both wear a mask and really big sunglasses, he won't notice. He won't notice. I like Truman, like watching the bike go by again. I'm like, that's from the movie.
Just one last thing before we move on. You've been away.
Yes,
right, and you told me you were going, which is great. You went to Egypt. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, you travel a lot for work.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
It's been crazy, and I'm always like, you're going. And you told me you're going to Egypt, and I was like, here he goes again. A bit worried about you. Your routine's a lot, all over the place. You're feeling a bit under the weather. And then, I don't know whether I wasn't listening properly or I just think you didn't tell me, but lo and behold, I go on Instagram, there you are scuba diving with your family, having a ripe old time. There I am worrying about you, thinking, don't worry, James, I'll sort the upload this week.
And you were like, I was going to try not to text you too much because you were busy working.
I was like, you lucky bastard.
I swear to God, I said, no, it's for a holiday going there.
You come back with a tan in October.
Oh God, yeah. Do you know what? Turns out Egypt is really hot, even in October. Like, boy, it was one of those, like, you get out of pool or sea and the water just, you're immediately dry.
Like a music video.
But yeah, I went scuba diving for the first time.
Great.
Which is very cool.
You can do it again?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to do it again. It was like a tri dive. Like, you go with an instructor who's very like, you go like to move, and he's like, and he's very firm.
Yeah.
But I'm also quite happy that he's firm, and he's checking on me like every 5 to 10 seconds, which I think I needed.
Yes.
Because it was like a real sort of 5 minutes, here's how to scuba dive, and there's so much information, and you're just there nodding, right.
So don't take my mask off. Okay.
And the main thing is, like, whatever you do, don't stop breathing when you come up, because your lungs will collapse from the pressure if you don't equalize it. And you're just like, I'm really untrained to be doing this, but okay.
I think it's one of those things that you can overthink when you scuba dive. You almost need to like devolve into like a mechanical thing and just do what feels natural.
There's this moment where, like, you're going down, you don't really realize it, but then you look up and you realize the surface of the water is like 10 meters above you, and I'm like, oh my God, am I drowning? No, I can breathe.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Don't have a panic attack.
Very Goldblum-esque of you. Yo, what's going on? Can I breathe?
Oh my God. Well,
yes, I can. I'm under
clownfish over
water.
there. If I have pictures, I will put a picture of me holding a clownfish, which I'm yet to receive. But if I have it, it'll go in the edit.
I went scuba diving once, and like that, I was descending, but like I saw the instructor look over at me at one point. He was like, and I looked up, and the boat was above me, but because there was quite a choppy water, it was like rising, so it would rise and be like 10 meters above my head.
See.
But then when it would come down, it would be like 3 meters above my head.
Yes.
And I just it didn't happen, but I felt the sensation of the boat just landing on my skull and killing me. But luckily I just kept descending and descending. But I thought, oh my God. It's horrible. Have you ever to see the underside of a boat?
Yeah, you're not meant to see it.
Hanging over you.
You touched the butt.
Anyway, this is a film podcast.
Yeah. Finding Nemo.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, movies. So guys, we have got a bit of a bumper show for you today. In fact, it's the first part of a 2-part episode because it has been the London Film Festival, which is one of the biggest film festivals, I'm realising, in the world.
Yep.
You've got your Cannes, you've got your Venice, but you've got your London and
London,
your Toronto. It's big. And it's the first year the London Film Festival has been on when we've been doing this podcast, right? And so James and I, a little last minute, but we managed to get ourselves press accreditation.
We realized we could see these films really early.
So this is how it works. So if you do like we do, and you have an outlet, and you have a certain number, you have to be above a certain number of followers. Whatever,
oh really? We made it.
Nice. We made it. Just made the cut. Like Indiana Jones under the door. We made the cut. Yeah. And you can get press accreditation, which means you have access to all of the press screenings that they lay on throughout the festival. That's not the same as the public screenings that they put on, which you buy tickets for as a punter, or the premieres that are happening. It's press screenings that run throughout the day. And how it usually works is the first film of the day is at 8:30, and it's usually the most talked about hype. Yeah, 8:30 a.m. That's right, most hyped film. So for 2 weeks, if you looked at the first film of all the days, it was always like the biggest film.
Yeah.
Which I think must be because the scheduling is like, we want the film critics to go in with we want the film critics to see the biggest films with the freshest mind. So it was like dog eat dog. They push their ways to the front of the queue.
Yeah.
Because if you're like the next big, okay, take Glass Onion, which closed the whole London Film Festival. You imagine Netflix being like, on the press screening, I want that to be the first film that critics see that day, because I don't want them to go and see this film at 2:00, having seen 3 films that morning, and they're clouded and they're thinking
also
about
availability-wise, you're more likely to be able to make something first thing in the day than like a 2:00,
exactly,
right? I think.
And also the idea that you can then leave that screening, write your review, and have it up online.
Yeah.
Because this is actually, it's part of the film industry, film festival circuit that they want you to go and see these. They lay on these screens because they want press to go and review them, because that can generate buzz and generate movement.
And they want to get an indication. Studios want to get an indication for the
indication.
awards. So yeah,
and it was quite interesting for us to be part of this sort of circus for the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Lucy Heath, our friend, the filmmaker, on like many episodes ago, talking about Tribeca Film Festival, and I did think about that when we were seeing films, because I thought underneath all of this stuff, you've got these screenings for the press, you've got the screens for the public, but in hotel rooms and meeting spaces all around London right now, there are film industry people putting together deals and putting together acquisitions and thinking, let's roll that out. This seems good. Well, people, Timothy Chalamet's in town because of the premiere, for the London Film Festival. Let's have a meeting because of this. So you're just aware of this buzz of film activity in London, which is really, really exciting. So how it would work is this. Yeah, we would go at 8:30. You have to actually get there earlier. Get there, queue outside the Odeon Lux Leicester Square. Get in, take a seat, which is actually Odeon Lux Leicester Square. Like, shocker, great screen.
Yeah.
Great cinema. Who knew that the
where
central...
they host the biggest stars in the world to watch a film, yeah.
So James and I divvied it up.
Were all yours in the upstairs bit as well?
No, it was you could go both. So James and I divvied them up because of different work arrangements. James sadly could only see one film.
Just saw one,
which
to contribute to today.
I very thankfully have been able to see 5 films, which
very impressive.
Which meant getting up at like 6:30, going all the way to Leicester Square, getting there for like 7:45, queuing outside. I will tell you right now, the queue for The Whale and the queue for Glass Onion went around Leicester Square.
Interesting, because White Noise was not a. I'd say it's 50% full.
Right, yeah, and the other ones I had were more timid. Queuing for a bit, letting you in. Obviously, there's loads of seats. It was never going to be a full house.
Yeah.
Getting in, sitting there, watching a 2 or even longer 2-hour film, finishing that, coming out, getting on a tube and going to work, and then working a full work day, having seen the film I've just done. And I must admit, by about like 5 p.m. every day, I was just like, and I would get flashbacks to the film, and I was like, was that today?
Do I like it? That's the most number of films you've seen for any episode of this show.
I know.
Right? Like 5? You've not done 5.
No. So we're gonna split it. So James and I, we've got 3 films to talk about in this part 1, and then next week you're gonna hear our reviews of the other 3 films.
Yeah, if we did it all in one episode, it would be probably 4 hours long, and it's just you would get lost in the shuffle. So enjoy a part 1 and part 2 of this.
Yes.
So yeah, very excited. I mean, I've been really jealous, just like you going to all these films. I'm like, I really want to see
James, you've been messaging me, being like, can we do this? And I'm like, sorry, I'm literally on the way to see Glass Onion.
I know,
I'm on the way
and
to
I'm
The
like,
Whale.
how exciting. But it's actually perfect because you will see all these films, give me an amazing impression of how these are doing. I can then, as they sort of get released to the peasants public, I can then see them and sort of bounce back off you at the same time that hopefully you guys will start to see them and we can start to have conversations and all of that. So it should be really good.
I think the important thing to point out, unless I would have thought this was kind of, I thought this was well known, but in case you aren't aware, the exciting thing about when I say the biggest films are at the first point of the day is that a lot of these films haven't been released yet.
Yeah.
They're either imminently being released in a month's time, or some of them, like The Whale, for example, hasn't even got a UK release date yet.
No,
I think it's not
no
until...
trailer yet
No
either.
even trailer at the time of recording, no trailer, not even a proper poster, right? So we're going to see all these films that have a lot of buzz about. If you want to get an idea of what the coming few months are going to be like with the film landscape, go back and listen to our Oscar contenders chat, which covers a lot of the films we're going to talk about today.
Should we do it?
Let's get into it. So,
welcome to the London Film Festival special.
Welcome to part 1 of the London Film Festival Roundup.
Oh, and these will be spoiler-free.
Yes, entirely spoiler-free. Don't worry, we got you.
Guys, just as a reminder, subscribe to PULP Kitchen from all the fun that we've got coming up. All these reviews, all these things going to be coming out as clips. We've got all this stuff ahead of when they're coming out. If you've ever just been wondering, should I, shouldn't I, go give us a like, go subscribe. It's a fun time. We're moving on to the award season.
You'll feel great for it. You'll feel lighted. You'll get this little
click
ding
the
in your
notification
pocket,
bell.
and you'll be like, oh yeah, Pulp Kitchen.
If you're enjoying this,
that.
rate it.
Hey, it's like, that's why it's the Pulp Kitchen. We're serving you up the goods.
Exactly.
We're cooking you something cinematic.
So, George, what is the first film that you would want to talk about today?
So the first film I saw at the London Film Festival was this Bill Nighy film called Living. A little bit of context about this. So I saw a trailer for this a couple of months ago. I sent it to you to have a little look at. It's based on an Akira Kurosawa film called Ikaru. Yeah, so because Akira Kurosawa.
Yes.
Yeah, Ikaru. From
I had a verbal brain malfunction where we did films on our blind spots and I mentioned it. Anyway.
So Ikaru from 1952. This is an English language adaptation which is set in the 1950s of London. It's adapted by a South African filmmaker who the name escapes me and I'm sat here. But the screenplay is written by Kazuo Ishiguro, sort of British-Japanese novelist who wrote Never Let Me Go,
multi-award winning,
Today. Yeah, very famous. And the essential setup for Living is this. It's 1950s London. And it's the era of all the men go to work in the morning in the pinstripe suits and the bowler hats and are identical. And they get on the steam train and they go, yeah, good morning, yes, good morning, yes. And they walk across to work, they get off the train and they go into their office. And it's the era of tightly packed offices with bundles of papers and people smoking and wood panelled walls. And this film begins by following a young office worker who is beginning his first day at County Hall in London, working for the London City Corporation. In the I believe planning and works department, so makes decisions about planning and building throughout the city. He meets his fellow colleagues who are also very stern and very much part of the system, and they say, "Oh, Mr. Williams is coming. You beware of Mr. Williams." And Mr. Williams is of course played by Bill Nighy, who is wearing the sternest and frostiest and most minimal of Bill Nighy expressions. And he's perfectly cordial, but he is a product of his time. He's 1950s, and he sits at his desk, and he sort of will half turn. If someone approaches him from his side, he will raise the tiniest of eyebrows to sort of go, "Can I help you at all?" Anyway, what happens is Mr. Williams says out of the blue, very uncharacteristically says, "I'm leaving early today for an appointment at 3 o'clock and I'll be back tomorrow." And everyone sort of goes, "Oh, okay. Could you please deputise in my absence?" And it's, "Okay, of course, Mr. Williams, of course." He goes to the doctor's appointment, and the doctor says, sadly, you're terminally ill. He's delivered this news. And so begins a sort of journey for Bill Nighy's character. And
reevaluation of life.
You can see, you can see where this is going. Reevaluation of life, a kind of questioning all that he's done in this incredibly stiff, clipped British setting. Right. The way I describe Living is it's a lovely, warming film about death. It's got the first thing to say is that it's immaculately presented.
It looked. In the trailer, it looked so clean and beautiful. Yes. Every single frame I was in love with.
If it is actually shot on film, but they have rendered it so much like the 1950s. It actually begins with stock Kodak footage of London from the 1950s.
I'd say it would be then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it's just beautiful to look at. And then it sort of seamlessly blends with how it's shot for the film. It's got a keen eye for not just period detail, but visual language. When the men are all lined up on the platform in their pinstripe suits, it just looks incredibly clear. When they get off the train, you've got these very stark shadows and strong light. So, one thing which is great story is when they go to London locations that we're very familiar with, like the entrance to Waterloo Station, but it's completely shot in period and it just looks beautiful. And you've got these strong, dark cutting shadows by County Hall, bouncing off this architecture. It invokes that this world is incredibly rigid and incredibly strict. And Bill Nighy is wonderful. It's a Bill Nighy role, it's a Bill Nighy performance, but he delivers it with such tenderness. I think I was watching it thinking this could, like you said, I know where this premise could take us.
Sure,
it could be twee, it could be saccharine, it could be overly sweet. But the thing is, it's not. I think it's done with a real tenderness and a real balance. There are some heartbreaking moments in it, and real moments of tenderness and warmth, but also it's moving. There is, very early on, there's a scene set where he meets Tom Burke's character. Love Tom Burke, by the way, as an actor, great. And Bill Nighy is sort of struggling and is sort of telling him his situation, and he says, I've started to realise I should maybe living, like the title suggests. And he says, but I've realised I don't know how, and it's really tender and really
breaking down that stiff upper lip, British front.
And also the visual, when I say about the visually striking element, it moves from this, like, after he's had the news delivered, there's a scene, for example, set in Brighton, where you go from these strict, highly contrasted shadows of County Hall in London to this sort of warm, full of colour glow of Brighton and the nightlife and the scenes around that. And just the contrast is great. There's some great moments of staging in it. He lives at home in just the most generic post-war suburbia, probably something like, he lives in Surrey, Esher in Surrey, right? And he lives there with his son and his son's wife-to-be. And there's some staging that's done in the beginning of the film with the first scene between Bill Nighy and his son that's just heartbreaking. Just the way it's visually presented, I thought, there's some moments of recollection with Bill Nighy's character that for me, like, reminded me of Terence Davies' film Distant Voices Still Lives, which is about a post-war family in Liverpool, which is that whole film is like an emotional memory. And there's bits of that poke through in this. Despite it's kind of like, it's pretty formally normal, but there's this moments of like, really it dissolves into like emotional memory, which I love. There's more than a heavy dose of Brief Encounter in there, which is absolutely no bad thing, because Brief Encounter is a masterpiece. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, classic British film from the 1940s, which has everything, the life outside of London, commuting in, the isolation that brings with you, and the sort of depersonalization of going into work every day. Amy Lou Wood is in this from Sex Education.
Yes.
Right. She's wonderful. Absolutely.
Really?
Every scene she is in, she just brings such warmth. And that's even spoken about her character. I mean, that's literally what a character's meant to do. She brings this vitality in this sort of male heavy world in this office. She manages to sort of break through to Mr. Williams' character, and she has these wondrous eyes that is such a great foil against Bill Nighy. So the expressions in this film, that's what's really interesting as well. I said, like, it's got this very good visual eye. It has a way of capturing faces so well. So when it shoots Amy Lou Ward, you just feel everything that Mr. Williams sees in her. And when you see Mr. Williams, you really get a sense of the cragginess and the frostiness of his expression that is slowly starting to thaw throughout the film. And with the other men in the office, it really has an eye for like the physiognomy of their faces and how each one almost represents a different like masculine ideal from the 50s. But this young whippersnapper who joins the firm as well, he brings sort of a lot of emotional heart. And there's this subplot with the film as well, that there is a piece of planning that hasn't been done, that is being handed around the bureaucracy of County Hall. And that kind of is kind of the narrative undercurrent. There's a cut for the third act that when it happened, I thought, oh, what's happened here? And then when the film resolves itself into its conclusion, I was like, oh, that's actually really smartly done. So, there's more than a touch of Christmas Carol in there, a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life. It won't be for everyone, but I was actually surprised at how solid it is. It's a really lovely, charming, heartwarming film. You will finish the film and go, that's really nice. Sorry, not nice. I don't mean like nice, like that's
cute, nice, sweet.
Cute, nice, like we've talked about, like Operation Mincemeat, watch on Sunday. Yeah. There is real sadness in this film and real emotion.
I am really looking forward to seeing Bill Nighy in a lead role.
Yes.
Because he has been around for so long and has been so great in so many, I'd say too fair to him, very samey kind of roles.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad. Like when I saw the trailer a couple of weeks, it was only like 2 weeks ago, and it was one of those trailers, this sounds so cliche, but actually like got me on the verge of tears because of how beautifully it looked, but how I think, having not seen it, how well crafted it seemed to be, and how it just sort of seemed to peck at these really nice little notes. But I'm just I don't really remember a time I've seen Bill Nighy really fronting a film like that for a really long time, and I'm like, of course, Bill Nighy, like national treasure, staple of British actors. I'm really looking forward now. Obviously, your very promising review. Like I'm very much looking forward to seeing him do that.
Yeah, he is He is. Well, it's more than he's getting his fair dues now in his performance. I sat next to a guy in the screen. That was one thing that was quite interesting about the press screenings as well. I'd always try and have a natter with the person who was next to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes if they're press, sometimes there'd be industry. And this guy was a producer, and he knew the producers, directors of this film. And he said, they nearly ran out of money. Really? And I said, you cannot tell. You absolutely cannot tell.
Wow.
I think the film looks impeccable, really impeccable. I left that film and it was glorious sunshine outside on a Sunday, and I felt great. I felt that was really charming and wonderful. And it's out in cinemas November 4th, right? Okay. So that's coming out soon. Go and see it and let me know what you think.
Please do. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. You got any questions about it? Does that sound...
That sounds great. Like my only thing I wanted to say was about Bill Nighy, which I don't remember a time when I've seen Bill Nighy front a film like that. Did you say it was what? Remind me again. Kazuo Shigeru's the writer on this.
Is a screenwriter, yeah.
Screenwriter. So it's not from a book. It's a Kazuo Shigeru screenwriter.
No, it's the
Akira Kurosawa.
But this is what I find interesting. You've got an Akira Kurosawa based on Akira Kurosawa film. So you've got a Japanese idea adapted by a British-Japanese screenwriter, directed by a South African director. And I really sometimes, I mean this is an absolute compliment, it's like sometimes you need an outsider's perspective to really cut to the heart of something. Like last year when we talked about Spencer, that's a Chilean director with an American actress. I'm like, sometimes you just need a different position. One thing I had forgotten to say is that the sound design in this film as well is really good.
Really?
It captures the hard clip-clop of men's shoes on the pavement across Waterloo Bridge. There is a dinner scene at home that is incredibly tense, and they amplify the cold sound of cutlery on crockery as it serves up shepherd's pie. That sort of... And it just makes you feel uncomfortable.
I think it's quite interesting to cross the idea, or take something that's a very Japanese cultural thing of being very sort of emotionally withdrawn and slightly stiff, and mixing that with something that's also very British.
Yes.
Like traditional Japanese is like you don't really show emotion, you don't want to do anything to put shame. And I think to actually merge these ideas and see a very interesting overlap is quite an interesting idea.
Well, exactly.
Or just look at a script and go, actually, this applies to 50s British culture.
Yeah, the parallels of two, conservative with a small c.
Yes.
Conservative with a big C societies, withdrawn, repressed. Anyway, that's Living with Bill Nighy. He's great. Amy Lou Wood. Oh, fantastic. Let me know what you think when you go see it, James.
Let's do it.
And if you have seen it, or you're going to see it, email us in and let us know.
You're watching this in a few weeks' time in the future. Email to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com and let us know what you thought.
James, one of the films we mentioned very briefly, I think, in our Oscars roundup a few weeks ago was Noah Baumbach's new film, White Noise, which I think is coming to Netflix soonish. You went to the press screening of that, the one you were able to go to.
The one I was able to go to.
What's going on?
Yeah, it's so Noah Baumbach is sort of in another Netflix-style partnership. And I think it's interesting because he's coming off the huge success or critical success of Marriage Story, and what I assume has been whatever Netflix values as a commercial success in terms of how many people watched it. It got, lots of awards. And this is based on Don DeLillo's novel of the same name. And it is the first Noah Baumbach film to not be based on his own screenplay. It's based on the novel. So you've got this sort of slightly interesting new territory for Noah Baumbach. And it's his highest budget to date, with $80 million. Okay. Which, again, coming off that success, I can sort of understand why. And I think, when I saw the film, you can see... this is an expensive movie. Oh, really? There's a lot of places and crowds and people and different things going on, and it kind of looks like it costs a lot of money. Is that interesting? Just thought it was worth an observation compared to what he's doing before. And it stars Jack Gladney, who's played by Adam Driver. And I think what's interesting about this film, you've seen the trailer, haven't you?
Yes. It seems kind of wacky.
Yeah, because I think to look at the trailer and try and decide that this film is about one thing would be a huge misrepresentation of what this film is doing. And I think the fact that it tries to make you think about it, the fact that it tries to do so many different things is part of its genius, and also, I feel, part of what slightly lets it down a bit. Okay. I think there's no arguing that this film is ever so slightly distracted, but when you really finish this film and take it as a whole, I realise, is that kind of the point and what it's trying to do? But whether or not it succeeds at doing that, I think will be between different people and how they interpret the film. Okay. what you've kind of seen from the trailer is that Adam Driver lives with his wife, played by Greta Gerwig, and they have 4 children from 3 different managers. And it's very sort of typical Noah Baumbach style dialogue, where it's sort of very overlapping, and these kids are all like wonderfully intelligent and precocious, and they're obsessed with digesting the news and testing each other's information. And it's really sort of like familiar, cozy, family style dialogue. And what happens is there is a chemical explosion. This is one of the things that happen in the movie. That happens outside their very small college town, and it's set in the 1980s.
Right.
And it forces this whole series of events that means they have to sort of evacuate the town and go into this quarantine zone. And again, the plot will sort of run through you. And look, White Noise is filled with interesting observations about Americans seeking solace from their impending death and their morality in consumerism. Right? This is all. I'm trying to service talk about it, and it's all about everyone's impending death and the dumbing down of public information. Right. A lot of territory, which we could say actually is quite relevant to our very modern
and also
concerns.
territory covered in a completely different way in Don't Look Up, right?
Yes, yeah. I guess you actually could make some similarities about this. And there's this a lot of scenes where people are watching the news, and they're calling it this now. Oh, we have to start using this term. Well, if they use that term, that is politicized, and you can tell there's like this almost impossible to ignore like post-COVID rationalization of the news, and it exists in a Noah Baumbach style of being ever so slightly strange and heightened. Dialogue style, both in the tone of its story and in the delivery of its actors, which I think works. And I think it is intentionally over intellectual. And Adam Driver plays a professor who specializes in Hitler studies, and he's friends with Don Cheadle, who's he studies Elvis Presley, and they give these like wonderfully overacted seminars about Hitler and Elvis and how they actually might have been linked, and it's almost holding up this really like satirical mirror to like the over education of our universities, and how you can just be a specialist in anything. But what's funny about him is that he doesn't speak any German, and he's a professor of Hitler studies, but he doesn't want anyone to know, so he takes German lessons in private. Right. And like that's kind of where like the first part of its like mirror that it holds up to society, then you get the whole sort of chemical reaction. And I think what makes it special is that the film is called White Noise, and it throws a bunch of distractions at you to make you think about all of these different things that are going on, when really at the core is a family and a relationship. And what happens is you become so distracted by what's happening in front of you that actually something that's really quite profound and quite heartbreaking is happening through the entire film. And what it does quite well is it allows that drama to almost sneak up on you, and you realize towards the end what really is the core that keeps this film moving forward. That being said, it is a really uneven film. Okay. It moves into a War of the Worlds-esque pastiche of Spielberg's 1980s like adventure film with sequences where like the family are in the car driving away from the thing, and you're like, okay. In the sort of almost the third act, it goes into a revenge style noir thriller with murder and like you kind of have to see it to believe it. And I think I know this is intentional. So for me to sit here and be like, this is an unbalanced movie, I think almost is a bit wrong. Because I think that's what it's meant to do. Whether or not that actually serves this film properly, I totally think is up for how what you bring into it. I had such a great time with the film while I was in there, and Adam Driver continues to be one of the best actors around. And I think Greta Gerwig it just does such a brilliant performance, and their style and their sort of almost on the verge of overacted comedic tone that they batter between. It really does work, and I think in lesser hands it could have failed. And I feel kind of middling about it. I'm like I had such a great time with it, but I also do feel like the format which it used to sort of sneak up on you, I feel like might be slightly flawed. Okay.
How did everyone else in the screening react to it as well? Were they laughing?
People were laughing. It's a funny film. Everyone was laughing. Like there are a lot of times where I found it really funny, and a lot of these like sort of very more modern contrasts to our own society, I think work, and it never felt cheap to be taking those kind of points.
Okay. So not to anticipate, obviously, or overthink about how this is going to be consumed, but I mean, I think this doesn't come out till like December time.
I think it's close.
I wouldn't be surprised if a load of people don't click with it.
Totally.
But it sounds like if you know Noah Baumbach well enough, and are willing to stick with it enough, there's probably just about enough in there for you to enjoy?
Yeah, I think you could enjoy the ride, and I think at the very end you might. I think I came out and I was like, what is this trying to say, and what is it about? Because you've changed genre on me so many times.
Yes.
I'm like, I almost like the film was trying to do. It's literally trying to distract you by format. Like White Noise is the title of the film. So I was almost like, hang on, like what is this trying to do? And I think it was trying to like really bring her over to a sort of slightly sad central problem that it had. And yeah, it's enjoyable but slightly flawed.
Okay. I really like Noah Baumbach's stuff.
Someone else could very much say, I think it's genius. I think what it does is really great. It's subverting our expectations. And I'd be like, you know what, fair, but I'm a little bit off on it.
Okay. But also if someone was incredibly harsh on it, you'd probably say, you're probably missing a couple of good things in there, right?
Yeah, probably.
I really like Noah Baumbach. Love Marriage Story. I like Kicking and Screaming. I like a lot of his stuff. And he's someone I look to now as like, you're like a successful independent director. You're not, I mean, he's working for Netflix, not independent, but I meant that like you can make the film that you kind of want to make.
Yeah.
I look at, he's been around for 20, 30 years. Someone like a Wes Anderson as well, like you can go and make your film.
And I think that's what's happened, by the way. I think like
with Netflix.
Off of Marriage Story, it was like, please feel free to go and do what you like.
Stories actually was his first thing, which is a less a Baumbach film, I have to say. But exactly. This is his third film for Netflix. He's clearly a deal, and it's like you go off and make Noah Baumbach pictures for middle class Americans to watch.
100%.
Great. I look forward to that. If you guys have
I'm actually really interested to hear what other people think about it.
Yeah,
just because I'd love to sound off other opinions, and I'd love someone to point out something I maybe didn't think about. So please do.
It might not be out for a couple of months, but if anyone has perchance also seen it, let us know your thoughts. Or if anyone's read the novel, maybe let us know. I know Don DeLillo's famously cryptic to read. Anyway, that's
not read the book.
You guys know the drill. hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. James, another film I saw at the London Film Festival, which I was so excited to see, was The Whale, Darren Aronofsky's new film. Probably the film of this season of films that is probably the most talked about. Currently hasn't got a poster, currently hasn't got a trailer.
I keep seeing articles of Brendan Fraser in tears after 20-minute standing ovation at insert prestigious film festival, blah, blah, blah.
I don't even think it's getting released in the UK until January. I don't think it's even been confirmed. It's not getting released in the US.
Oscar season.
They are going for, and in a way, it's kind of built already, this kind of air of mystique and this air of buzz. And like I said earlier, when I turned up for the screening, there was a queue around the block. So, and when we did our, look ahead to the films that are coming up, I think we both said The Whale was one we were most intrigued by.
Yeah.
Because it is a very unique, to use that word, film, a very distinctive film.
A rebirth of an old actor.
Rebirth of a new actor,
bringing slightly divisive director at the helm.
Yes. So let's just contextualize it. So The Whale is based off of a play by, I think his name is Samuel D. Hunter. It stars Brendan Fraser, who, of course, will be familiar to many audience members, but also not familiar to a lot of audience members. I asked my flatmate, I asked my girlfriend, I said, do you know who Brendan Fraser is? And they said no. And I said, the guy from The Mummy.
I hope you disassociated from them.
I said, the guy from The Mummy. And they went, oh, yeah. But it's true. I honestly think if you said to someone, when was the last time you saw a Brendan Fraser film? Or when was the last time Brendan Fraser was in your consciousness? I know he's still been getting work, the past few years. But it's been a while. Darren Aronofsky has directed this. Darren Aronofsky directed Requiem for a Dream, Pi, Black Swan, The Wrestler, The Fountain. Mother. Noah as well, actually, that everyone forgets.
I definitely forget that one.
And now he's back with The Whale. The story of The Whale is this. Brendan Fraser plays Charlie, who I think is about 600 pounds, although that confuses me with the conversion. He is chronically, morbidly obese. He is, the kind of thing that is the subject of a Channel 5 documentary at 11 o'clock at night, right? He is housebound, almost like sofa-bound character, but he's an English teacher as well. He's incredibly smart, and he teaches online courses. And in fact, one of the very early shots of the film that we see, and just a reminder, this is spoiler-free, I'm not going to give anything away that you don't want to know, is like a Zoom screen. Like Zoom meetings, right?
Sorry, those motorbikes are on my end.
Yes, sorry, more traffic.
Back in town.
So the film begins, and the first time we see Charlie as a character, it begins at a point of it begins at quite an ugly point. It's quite a good, almost grotesque. I don't think the film is leeringly grotesque. But there are moments of by the state of his life that are sadly grotesque. Because it begins at this kind of low point for him, and very early, I'm trying to be as broad as I can. I don't want to give away too much. Someone looks at him and says, like, you are in like a critical stage of your health. You are not well, which is obvious to anyone who's watching this. He knows it. The person telling him knows it. The audience knows it. This person is not doing good. Lots of things happen in the course of the story, but essentially, I would describe it the way I described it before I had even seen it, which is that the broad narrative is that he spends the duration of the film trying to reconnect with his daughter, who is played in this by Sadie Sink, who most people will know from Stranger Things, who's great in Stranger Things. And I have to say, it plays a character in this not too really dissimilar from her character in that, but you know what? She's still good in it. The Whale. How to describe The Whale? I think The Whale is a really, really solid, often powerful, difficult, but difficult in the right places film that I found incredibly moving. Where to begin? First of all, with Darren Aronofsky. Darren Aronofsky has always made films about waking nightmares, right? Sure. Whether it's the existence of drug users in Requiem for a Dream and, how haunted that whole experience is and the way that film just sort of descends into hell. It's Black Swan with Natalie Portman's character losing her mind. Mm-hmm. It's Mother, the sort of
all the way through
this kind of waking nightmare of life. And what I found really interesting is that Darren Aronofsky is incredibly restrained in this film. This is the most restrained Darren Aronofsky film you see, especially off the back of Mother, which was like him giving everything. Yeah. This is him dialing it way down. Yet he still infuses it with so many of his hallmark traits, and the waking nightmare of Charlie's life is kind of writ large. And like I said, it's not in a exploitative way or it's just a way that renders him as a fully complete character. So when you look at him in his life, the camera isn't sort of going, oh, like how fucking disgusting this is, or overly being like, it's not trying to really point you into a certain direction. I found it was just sort of presenting you with this character. But it's creating this waking nightmare from an incredibly domestic setting. It's all basically in his living room, and it's the detritus of his life. It's empty 4-liter bottles of Pepsi. It is discarded pizza boxes. It is greasy t-shirts. I think that's incredibly good. I think also Darren Aronofsky always makes films that are really interested in the body. Requiem for a Dream is like the sort of deterioration of the body by drugs, whether it's the arm of Jared Leto or what happens to Jennifer Connelly's character, or even with Ellen Burstyn's character. It's Natalie Portman's physique in Black Swan. Exactly, yeah. And the nails. It's Mickey Rourke's physique in The Wrestler. And you get that with Brendan Fraser in this. Brendan Fraser had put on weight for this role, but obviously a large amount of it is to do with prosthetics and I think maybe a touch of CGI, and also hidden between massive clothes, right? I think the first thing to actually just flag up when going into the Whale is that it is a play. And I think for some people that if you were to draw anything, that is probably the biggest obstacle to this film.
Right.
It will be a minor obstacle for some, it will be a bigger obstacle for others. I don't think it's a problem because the film it is in the film's DNA. It is not lying, it's not trying to hide it. This film is a play. It is predominantly set in his house, his flat. He is housebound, so it makes sense. It is his living room, it is his bedroom, it is his bathroom, it is his balcony. But do not expect this film to break away and go to different places. Strap in, you're watching a play, okay? However, I don't think it suffered the stagey woodenness of a play. I didn't think, oh God, this is just wooden. Don't get me wrong, it's full of emotion, full of life, very well directed. But you are watching a play. And how you feel about that, it depends on how you feel about watching a play, really. There are moments of dramatic entrances and exits that feel a little stagey. There are dialogue that is almost too clean, too play-like, a little too mannered. But it's fine if you like watching plays and if you like that kind of drama, right?
Mm-hmm. So do you think this is enjoyed by a certain type of critic / viewer?
No, I think it will land more strongly with certain people than others, but I think also just flagging that in advance will help a lot of people. I think you just need to know that you're going to be sat basically in some guy's room for 2 hours. That said, it's a really, really interesting film because I kept thinking, I've not seen anything like this before. I've not seen a film study someone like this in this way for such a long time. The last time I'm trying to think of someone who was like housebound and morbidly obese is like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which is Johnny Depp's mother, and she's like a supporting character. But this is very much contextualized within real life. You know, there are themes in this beyond the state of Charlie's health. It's obviously his relationship with his daughter. There's themes of religion is a big theme, healthcare, sort of wider socio-economic political landscape of America. There are other characters as well. There's a character, again, can't remember the actress's name off the top of my head, who plays Liz, who's his friend, who sort of checks up on him. Wonderfully played. She's fantastic. She was in the Watchmen series. There's this other guy who knocks on his door, who is Ty Simpkins. He brings a lot as well. Anyway, if you can sense from me sort of like slowly trying to present it to you, it's because there is many great things in The Whale, but I think I should also say up front is that, you know, it's not a lot of fun. You know, I'm not saying it's overly heavy. There are moments of great humour in it and witty play humour, but it is sad. You are watching a sad story. But onto the stronger points now. What I found really interesting is that how Darren Aronofsky has sort of quickly emotionally invests you into the story, into this world. There is a point only about 10 minutes in of Brendan Fraser eating a chocolate bar. And it is really quite emotional. And I remember thinking, that is really, you've got me already there. And you've got my attention. I think that the reason it's called The Whale is that he loves Moby Dick, the story. It's both, you know, good book. So like obviously The Whale and that, but then there's also the pejorative insult of the fact that he is, you know, so large. And the sound of waves kind of is like a recurrent like leitmotif that kind of runs through the film. And there is I noticed watching it that like the waves that they were playing, these sort of waves of emotion would kind of come through and really catch you off guard in a way that a brilliantly written play would do. In that there is, you know, it doesn't have to have a moment of action or a moment of this. It's just in the sudden delivery of a line that suddenly gets you in a certain place. Brendan Fraser is wonderful. I mean, just fantastic.
Best actor? Not that you've seen.
I think him being best actor for the Oscars next year is such a moot point by this that it's almost even not worth discussing. I don't want to overhype it because an add-on, but like he is so wonderful. When I talked in my review of Living, I mentioned Amy Lou Wood and her eyes and how like open and wide these sort of doe eyes that she had. And Brendan Fraser has the same thing. He's got these really expressive wide eyes, and Charlie is a full character that's kind and warm, but conflicted and has a thing in his past. And to spend time with him is really interesting. What I love as well is when you get to award season like this, you are always in the territory of being told, this person is up, it could win the Oscar next year, and go and watch this performance, and you go and watch it, and the actor's going, I'm going to give you a performance. I'm going to go for the grand performance, and I'm going to get that Oscar, and you go, wow, look how big that performance was. And I mean, he literally is doing a big performance because he's so big, but I actually never felt like, here goes Brendan Fraser going for that Oscar.
He's really trying.
I really felt that he
got given a dream role and
he really committed to it, and he did, and he physically and visually he does disappear into the role, but he also does that, you know, in his own acting. It's so hard to recognize him and think, you know, is that Brendan Fraser, which is great. It's a completely self-effacing role. Like I said, there are moments of it that are ugly and uncomfortable and difficult, but what the strength of The Whale is that it takes a very ugly, difficult subject matter, many subject matters, and it is always trying to move from a point of ugliness to a point of beauty. Right, and it's always trying to get to that human point. And you know, I can't say why, but if you look at the way the film opens with Brendan Fraser's character, I mean, like the shot and the way the film closes, if you were to hold those two shots together, I think you get a perfect articulation of that kind of central theme. I talked about this kind of waves of emotion that kind of building up, and like all good, well-written plays, they have an emotional climax and it builds. And James, I was watching it and I realized in the last 10 minutes that I was crying, and I could hear people around me sniffling and wiping their eyes. And and I thought, you know, and what's great about these press screenings is that everyone there loves films as much as you do, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it wasn't just like a couple of tears. I had to get a tissue. I had to dab my eye, and I had to sort of go, stay with it. And I was completely like knocked out by the end. So when the credits rolled, I had to sit there. I had to wipe my eyes again. I had to let the lights go out, and I then had to stagger outside and go and do a full work day. And I was on the tube like, I've just seen this like incredibly intense.
Someone offers you a chocolate bar and you just burst into tears.
A dramatic scenario, and I don't think I can carry this. I mean, I'm trying to talk around it as best I can. Is there anything you want to ask me?
So here's the thing. So hearing you compliment it is great. And I think I'm still very interested to see it. And it's nice to see that the queues around the block and the bars and the 20-minute standing ovations are sort of, justified. Do you think this film has mass appeal? And do you think that, because I think what a lot of people have said about if this film is going to be up for, either best actor or best film.
The best film I could see.
People often say that in the recent years with the Oscars, the best film have been films that not a lot of people have seen, not a lot of people have had mass appeal for, versus back in the day, they were usually like, if you go back, you were like, oh, those were really big films
like
that
Lord
everyone
of the Rings.
saw. Lord of the Rings, like Gladiator, that was film. You think to films like that, and I'm just wondering, will people who aren't necessarily the London Film Festival audience or the critics resonate with it as much as they do?
Probably not. I don't think it's...
And I don't think that's a criticism. I'm just curious to hear about that. I don't think
it's obscure or like overly esoteric. Like when you talked about White Noise, like that's clearly playing to... there's going to be a certain crowd that get that and some crowd that doesn't. I do think there is a lot of people that go, what is that? What is that? And then they go to see it. They might think, oh, this is a play, basically. Oh, I'm not sure I like... So it's probably speaking to a slightly narrower field.
With Darren Aronofsky films, I felt like Black Swan cut quite a nice balance between having mass appeal and also being in film Darren Aronofsky.
And there is this sort of tension in it as well. When I was watching, I was like, I've come to see Darren Aronofsky film, and yet I'm basically watching him do a play, which is weird. But like I say, he really does deliver it well. I think...
another film recently that really felt like a play, but wasn't a play, is The Hateful Eight.
Right,
which was purposefully shot in ultra-wide pan vision.
But that again has much more visually things happen, and also that just did go outside and had action in it as well. There's this. I don't want to say that the play is a wrong thing at all. Like it's a very good play and it's very well written, and like I said, it delivers the emotional beats and it gets you thinking and it gets you invested in this character. And I think Darren Aronofsky does a very good job of rendering that cinematically. It's just that I'm just letting you know right now, if you don't like stagey, slightly play films, you might chafe slightly at this obstacle.
Other than that, go and see it.
Other than that, I think it's really powerful at times. I think it's like solid throughout, but it builds to. Like I said, I was really knocked out by the end. Watch it for his performance. Watch it for the whole cast performance. I mean, there's even a performance by a character that I don't even want to mention because I don't want to reveal too much. It is, like I said, uncomfortable. It's slightly grotesque at times. It is touching. It is very moving, and it is powerful, and it is very distinctive and unique. I really think you're not going to see another film like that. So
I'm very excited.
Welcome back, Brendan Fraser. They might as well start warming up. Start putting in the name right now. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if some film studios are like, we're going to hold our film back for a year because they've done that in the past. They've gone, it's such a clear indication that this person's going to win. Wow. Why risk it? I mean, it has, not to be cynical, but it has all the things written over it. It's got a physical transformation by an actor who's doing a comeback.
Yeah.
It's got great theatrical credentials as well. So if it sounds like I'm sort of tiptoeing around it, it's based on a play, and it's not a laugh riot. But if you like good drama and you like good acting and you like good directing and you just want to sit and just get your teeth into some drama that makes you feel something, makes you think about something, go and see The Whale.
If you've seen The Whale, please let us know what you think and write in your impressions to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com.
We will do a spoiler discussion when it comes out.
Yes, when I've seen it. Let's do it. So there you go, guys. That was half of the films that we've seen for the London Film Festival. Please do wait for our part 2 where we'll do more.
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed
Reviews
it.
coming next week, just to tease you, include Sam Mendes' new film, Empire of Light.
I'm very looking forward to
Martin McDonagh's new film, The Banshees of Inisherin.
Heard great things about that.
Glass Onion, Knives Out 2.
Guys, subscribe.
Anyway.
Be here for it. Bye. But in the meantime, separately, as always,
Probably
we
should have
get
done that at the
wonderful emails. Yeah, that's all right.
we could
We'll
do it
keep it
again.
there. As always, we get great emails from our audience all over the world, and they send in their thoughts, their questions, their concerns to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Just like Cora did. Cora says, hi, love the podcast, listen to it every week. A few months ago, I watched Columbus by Kogonada.
Kogonada.
I was wondering if you've watched it. You can tell I haven't. Its main theme is architecture, which is not an interest of mine at all. But after watching, I felt really invested. Amazing performances from the small cast as well. Highly recommended. P.S. I'm doing my A-levels at the moment, and this podcast is getting me through. Thanks, Cora.
Hey, Cora, first of all, good luck in your A-levels.
Best of luck.
Hey,
What month is it?
You're going to do fine.
Okay.
You're going to do fine. Don't worry. We have spoken about Columbus, but I don't know if we kept it in.
Did it get cut
in
from
episode
episode?
30, we had that episode
love
called,
that you know the name of the episode.
movie moments of the month, or it was like magical moments of the movies, right? I spoke about it with you, right? Because I have seen Columbus, and I will tell you about it in a second. But I think we might have cut it, and maybe we have if Cora hasn't heard about it. But to recap, yes, I have seen Columbus. It's
And you're an architecture fan?
Lovely. Well, I work in architecture, my day job. I have an appreciation for it. I don't say I'm not a real architectural nerd.
You're a bricklayer.
But I know my Le Corbusier from my Mies van der Rohe and my Nehemiah and my Geary.
George's Instagram is linked below.
Yes, why not actually? Come below. Columbus is a lovely film that it is, to use that modern phrase, it is such a vibe. If you watch it, it's such a mood piece about. It's so reflective and meditative and contemplative, but basically, also like under 90 minutes. Absolute joy. It's got John Cho in it from Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
Just to give you the basic premise, it's him and Haley Lou Richardson. It's set in Columbus, Ohio, which so happens to have lots of modernist masterpieces of architecture, right?
Okay.
She works at the library there. She clearly should have gone to college and she should have gone and done her own thing, but she stayed behind because her mother wasn't very well and she's sort of hanging around in this town. But she doesn't mind it. She likes architecture. She does tours. She really enjoys it. John Cho, he flies out to Columbus, Ohio, because his father is a respected architectural lecturer, professor. His father has a heart attack and is in the hospital, so John Cho flies out there and is sort of stuck there for like a week waiting on his father's health condition. He meets Haley Richardson. They sort of have this meet cute, but important to say it's not a romantic film as well, which I really love. They have a very platonic relationship in it, and anyway, it's like they platonically fall for each other. It's wonderful. But they have,
What years did it come out?
2017 in the States, 2018. Took 18 months for it to come out over here.
Oh, it's really
but it is filmed so beautifully and it's so calm. I really, really love it. And more people need to see that film. Kogonada just had a new film out called After Yang with Colin Farrell, which I need to see. But Kogonada, that was his first film, and he basically, before that, made video essays for the BFI and the Criterion Collection.
Cool.
Lovely film.
I'm sold.
Go check it out.
This next one is from Alva, who says, hello, James and George.
Hey, Alva.
Hope you are well. You well?
I'm okay, yeah.
My name is Alva. I'm from Uppsala in Sweden.
Yeah,
I hope
Uppsala,
I've said that right. And I discovered your podcast earlier this year. Where, you may ask? Well, a little birdie told me about it, of course. This podcast quickly became a favourite and something I look forward to every week. I've listened through all the episodes and have been recommending it to anyone who will listen.
Gold star to you, Alva.
Welcome. You can rise
doing the
through
Lord's
our
work.
Scientology pyramid and you can glow with us at the top. I have a great love for film, but I was reminded while listening to your podcast today that I do have quite a large gap in my film knowledge due to never having seen any of the Bond films, to the great disappointment of my father.
That sounded very dramatic. Son, don't even speak to
and
me.
it's brackets to the great disappointment of my father.
I can imagine, like, he's at the top of the stairs, like, saying, "You have shamed me."
I like to think you come home with like your chess first place thing. And he's like smacks it out of your
Meaningless,
hand.
because you haven't seen The World
You
Is Not
haven't
Enough.
seen Never Say Never Again.
Well, is that a Bond film technically? Because that's the one made outside of
Yeah, you
like,
can technically, sure.
Yeah.
It just
Anyway.
feels like such a great endeavor to watch them all that I feel quite overwhelmed whenever I try to approach them. Some people have told me that I shouldn't watch some of them, while others say it is necessary to see every single one to get the full picture and experience. I just don't know where to start, and I'm looking to you to help me out. All the love. Alva.
Alva, look, don't worry, buddy. You don't need to watch them all. I've never seen.
definitely
You
don't need to watch
definitely
them
do
all.
not need to go watch them all. There are far more important, more worthwhile films in the canon of film history that you can delve into. I've not seen all the Bond films. I don't think I've even seen any of the old ones.
I love
really.
James Bond. Some of them are really slow.
Yeah, and some of them are not that good.
I think if I was to talk about, I'm going to say outside of Daniel Craig's, just because I feel like everyone knows about Daniel Craig's ones. Just like a hot 5 off the top of my head. Goldfinger.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to say On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
The one I haven't seen, but that's the one that everyone says is really good.
It's different. And then I want to say Dr. No, even though it's really old.
Really? The first one? Okay.
And then what?
Live and
what
Let
do I want
Die?
of the what's-her-face ones.
Definitely GoldenEye. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah,
You can't go wrong
GoldenEye.
with GoldenEye.
GoldenEye is so early noughties, like the fake hacking and the digital beep boop beep.
And also that great sequence at the beginning with the dam where he does the bungee jump.
That guy went to school with my dad.
Oh yes,
I met him.
I think we talked about it last year. No Time to Die.
He's a stunt guy, and apparently
Brilliant.
he used to always like jump off stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I think
well,
all
there
of
you go.
with the exception of Die Another Day, I think the 3 first Brosnan films are pretty solid.
You know what? I remember The World Is Not Enough. What's his other one, which is Tomorrow Never Dies? I've definitely seen it, but I don't remember it at all.
It's got your guy. It's got your oh God, great. Okay, come on. Oh God, I'm having a mind blank. I never have a mind. Jonathan Pryce is basically Rupert Murdoch. Yeah, no, I got it.
I'm just thinking of like what Roger Moore was, because there are some good Roger Moore ones, but he's also got some really silly ones. Live and Let Die is good fun. I remember enjoying The Spy Who Loved Me. There you go. I guess I don't really have an answer.
I would say, you know what, why don't you split the difference and just watch the Brosnan ones? Because that's kind of like old enough to be, you've seen some of them and that are older, but you don't have to, you watch Goldfinger because it's famous. You watch On Her Majesty's Secret Service because it's prestigious and regarded well. And you watch GoldenEye.
And then Casino Royale because it's great.
There you go.
And Skyfall.
Alva, sorted. You can reconcile with your
Hopefully
father
that
now.
helps. Yeah. This next one is from John. Hey lads, hope you're well. I have never been the biggest movie guy, but listening to the pod on the drive to work most days gets me more keen to watch a film that night. Keep it up. That is what you want to hear.
Also, I really find it interesting that you're not that much of a movie guy, but you decided to listen to us. Like, I love that. It's a broad church. Everyone's welcome.
Let us induct you and just rope you into the movies.
Oh,
I love that. Being from Oz, my question for you is, who is your favourite Aussie actor, actress in their best role?
Like the way you went full
New
Zealand
Zealand
and went straight over the sea
to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Never really know. Favourite Aussie actor, George?
Great question, because there are so many. Joel Edgerton,
That was my
Margot
favourite.
Robbie, Hugo Weaving, Kate Blanchett.
Hugh Jackman.
I mean, I know I'm just naming a few here. I'm just trying to reel them all. Hugh Jackman. I would say, or Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh, Ben Mendelsohn. I think
Yeah.
Joel Edgerton, I've said before, I think is a little bit underrated.
Pearce.
He's the most solid supporting actor you could bring onto your film.
Yeah.
Most reliable, always going to deliver. You can put him in something really grounded like 13 Lives and he's great, or you can turn him all the way up in Great Gatsby and he's also really good.
He's so good in that. I think I had an answer for this one.
Margot Robbie right now is probably sitting very close to the top of like the highest caliber A-list female actress right now, I think.
You know what? I got one. You said Joel Edgerton,
Yeah.
which is great. Male actor. Female actor, Toni Collette.
Yeah.
Great.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
This next one,
But also, whatever you're doing there, guys, you're clearly doing something very good well with your
Something in
talent.
the
because
water,
there's something in the water.
well, thank you very much, and please apologise for the sirens that are always flashing. I hope you haven't pulled over rapidly, because I do try to sort of warn people, because I'm conscious if people are driving, like sirens on our
James
left.
lives in the vice capital of London.
Yeah. This next one is from Daniel. It says, "Hey Pulky, PULKI,
I get it.
kids."
Got it.
Well, I feel like when we get really big and kids like have a graffiti tag to show us support, it'll be Pulky.
Yeah, because that's how big we're going to get.
And you won't be able to do Pulp Kitchen because the cops will arrive, so you got to be quick. Pulky, long-time listener and multiple-time caller. With the Oscar buzz around Brendan Fraser, please see below review for details. Just wondering which some of your favourite comebacks / career resurgence in the past, and who would you like to see have a career resurgence in the future?
Great question.
I know my choice may not be popular, but I would love to see Shia LaBeouf have a career resurgence, especially with the general moviegoer. Watched his podcast with John Bernthal, and he really seems in a better place in his life. Keep up the great content. No pressure. I've also seen this podcast.
Yeah, I did. John Berthel's doing a podcast. Everyone's doing it, James. James, we've got competition.
John Bernthal is a real because he has such a masculine typecast style where he's really butch and really gruff, but he's a real emotionally empathetic softie in real life.
Yeah, good actor.
And he's very softly, incredible actor, but he's really softly spoken, and he seems like he's a great listener, and he's got his dogs and his farm.
What I would say about Shia LaBeouf, I feel like Shia LaBeouf had his kind of comeback, although I don't think he ever really went away. He had Honey Boy came out, which is a really. Have you seen Honey Boy?
No, it's been on my list for so long. I have it saved on my
interesting
iPad
film that he wrote, basically about his experiences with his father, who was abusive and overbearing, but not abusive in it's a very specific tale about Hollywood, and his father was like his chaperone and the way he looked after him. And he plays his father in it. Really, really good film.
Shia LaBeouf is really good.
But so he had that, but after that, there have been, there are things about Shia LaBeouf that have come to light, which are...
It's a shame, because you can tell he comes from a sort of troubled upbringing.
Yeah,
and you know where he's really great in, on a completely more positive note? A film called Holes.
Yes,
which was like,
I used to read the book
I read the book.
Year 8.
Yes, it's like a child's book. It's the Disney film, like when he was doing the Even Stevens stuff. And he's just great in that. You can tell that's a star.
Oh, he brings it when he wants it. Just to move on to comics I'd like to see. Okay, I thought about this, right?
Yeah.
I would like to have Matthew Broderick have
a
big comeback,
I'm into
right?
that.
So I think we kind of mentioned this before. Like Matthew Broderick, obviously, Ferris Bueller, charming, great, had his moment. Then he had his years of being a leading guy, and in recent years he's become this very quiet, mild character who's just almost not even on screen anymore. He's just living in New York. He's been in a couple of theatre things, and every so often he'll be like have a 5-minute part in a Kenneth Lonergan film. So do you remember in like Manchester by the Sea where he turns up for that one scene? You're like, Matthew Broderick.
That's Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, I would love to see Matthew Broderick really have a comeback and be put into a different kind of role. I really think he could do it. But I love it also when you've kind of transcended genre. So when we're talking about Brendan Fraser, because he comes from a genre of The Mummy and George in the Jungle, which is camp and big and swing, and you've got to do heavy drama. And Matthew Broderick comes from associated in people's heads of being sort of the light relief, kind of fun. He can still lead a film, but he's kind of, hey, what's going on here?
It's Matthew Broderick here. I just remember coming out of Ticket to Paradise and being like, I wish George Clooney would do more, and I wish Julia Roberts would do more. And they asked, Julia Roberts once got asked, why is it you don't do any films anymore? And she was like, I get all these scripts and I never am interested in any of them, which is such a sad thing to hear. But she's so great, and I feel like she's just been slightly...
Paradise the right script to say yes
Not really, no,
Paid
but I went to go see it. And you say, it's a shame that like the scripts aren't really there. And I saw this interesting video with... Speaking of like films not being what they used to, right? Which is like something you could say about anything. But Matt Damon on his Hot Ones interview, I don't know if you saw it, was asked about, why is it films aren't made like they used to? And he made this very long statement, is that back in the day, you used to make a film and it had its window to come out in box office, and then you got this entire second win in a second market, which was the DVD market. And that's where you get films like Good Will Hunting, which he probably knows because he like literally tries to get films produced. And he was like, that market has completely disappeared. So you just have this one big impact in the cinema to make your films. And that is why the films that we get now are so different, and why like the rom-com is dying, and why certain things like that are just sort of not happening.
Such a good point. It's also, when he made that point, I've seen that and I was like, oh my god, that's so obvious.
So obvious. There's no money anymore. Like in getting a DVD. Like we used to buy DVDs all the time as a family. Like before going on holiday, we'd get DVDs. Like just like for Christmas, you get a DVD.
I don't miss DVDs because
CDs are a terrible storage format. It's a really boring thing to say, but like of all like from cassettes, tapes, VHS, drives, like CDs are really like they
bad for the environment.
age badly, they scratch. Anyway.
Oh, do you remember getting like a DVD from like Blockbuster? You put it on and it would be like the opening scene would be like, hi, I'm gonna and then it would skip to like the final scene in the movie, and then it would just cut out.
And you just think, what is that DVD scene? Where has that been left? Like what dog had its way with that DVD? But yeah, I guess it's not necessarily which actor wants to have a comeback sometimes, but whether or not they want to come back.
Oh, very good, James.
And on that note, thank you very much for writing in.
We will come back.
We will come back. As always, please send in your questions, your thoughts and concerns. We'd love to hear them to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, and we will do our best to read them out on the show. Okay, George. As always, we come to the end of part 1 of our London Film Festival review-a-thon.
Well done for nearly forgetting.
Just what we've just done. As always, we end Pulp Kitchen with a game. Today's game is Guess the Film Based on the Character. I'm going to read you a list of film characters, and you have to quick-fire tell me what film they belong to. George, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You have to guess the film based on its character. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Bill the Butcher.
Gangster New York.
HAL 9000.
2001.
Syndrome.
That is The Incredibles.
Hans Gruber.
Die Hard.
Ron Burgundy.
Anchorman.
John Hammond.
Jurassic Park.
Yep. Lieutenant Dan.
Forrest Gump.
The Bride.
Kill Bill.
Nurse Ratched.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Ki Adi Mundi.
like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the
I
Sith.
accept Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
a member of the Jedi Council. There you go. That's the game one.
Is that it?
Nice and quick.
Easy, James. Fine, I got every single one.
You got every single one. Well done. Syndrome was one. I was
even
like,
break
let's
a
just
sweat.
go left field with. Let's put a feeling out there and see if he gets it. But there you go. I'd like to hear if you got them yourself. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. As always, you know we post new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
And guys, check us out. We've got other stuff coming out on the channel throughout the week, and we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok. Give us not only like the things you see, but also follow us as well. So you can.
There's something funny. Share it with your friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely share it. Spread the word. Spread the love, please. We really appreciate it, and we just appreciate your emails coming in as well. It's great to have the support. It's great to hear from you guys. Next week, as we've said, we've got those 3 films coming out. Big films to talk about. So stay tuned for part 2. That's it, right?
See you next week.
See ya.